Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. Oh viewers, I knew this time would come at some point, and it has. Last lockdown, which was the second lockdown, I filmed a 2005 Vauxhall Vectra C on No Budget Reviews, courtesy of another chap who's the channel, Dan, whose channel is, I believe, called Dan's Cars in the Country. We have the classic Vectra, the Vectra B, in proper photocopier salesman spec. This is a 1998 Vectra 1.8 LS. Now, we got the first Vectra that was made as a Vauxhall Cavalier in this country. So this is what it's known as a Vectra B. Vectra A was very well received, and you know, it sold an awful lot of Mark III Cavalier. Sorry about the lighting, by the way. Yeah, that makes it better if I do that sometimes. Vectra B though was not as well received as the Cavalier, and of course you'll know that Mr Ian Seabrook used to have one of these quite recently. It was a facelift 2.2 LS. This is a 1.8 pre-facelift. And Jeremy Clarkson, of course, famously in late '95 when these cars came out, did one of the worst reviews I think that anyone had ever seen, and was promptly told that he couldn't have any more Vauxhall press cars for a while. I don't know about the styling of this saloon version. Most of them I think you saw were hatchbacks. This is a saloon. No rear wiper, unfortunately, unlike a Mark I and Mark II Mondeo gear. So just look in here, it's massive in here, and there's a ski hatch in there too. Looks like the seats actually fold down, which is remarkably practical. You just don't see a lot of cars like this anymore. Let's pull this boot carpet up. You can see that we have a full-size spare wheel and some condensation in here, although this car actually has a full service history, and Dan paid well, you know, low No Budget Reviews money for this car. That's all I will say. And actually it's in quite nice condition. The bodywork's actually pretty good on this. It's a colour that we don't see too much really these days, although it was popular at the time. Got a little bit of corrosion sort of going on here, and a little bit down at the bottom of the driver's door, a little dent from the previous owner, I think was an elderly gentleman, but it's really not that bad. So I get into the back, and I'm 5'11". I apologise for wind noise, by the way. That's just the way that goes on No Budget Reviews. We don't have a separate microphone. It's pretty spacious in here for a car of this size in this era. It's all very sort of, you know, moulded plastic and kind of, you know, not particularly exciting. But, you know, the point of the Vectra review that Jeremy Clarkson did was that an awful lot of these cars were moulded plastic and not particularly exciting. This one actually has air conditioning, although it doesn't actually work. You don't get you don't get electric rear windows, but what you get instead are blanking plates that look just like window switches. Oh, please don't keep doing that to me. Like, oh, I'll have to do this again, won't I? There we go. I'll hold it with two hands. Yeah, look, a blanking plate that looks just like an electric window switch, but there is the window winder and the door pocket. I mean, I got an armrest in here, so, you know, we're not absolute base spec, and, you know, you can see the seats default because there's a little thing to pull there. It's quite airy in here. You don't get a sunroof or anything on this spec, but It's not too bad. The seat trim is quite jazzy. Of course, I'd want a nice CDX with some leather seats, but you know, these cars are getting quite rare now. There's not a huge amount of them around, the pre-facelift ones anyway. So, yeah, will this become a classic? We'll have to see. Right, let's get in the front. Before I do, of course, we have to point out the tool for removing the dust caps, which, of course, Jeremy Clarkson reminded me of when I watched this video the other day. There it is. Right. Getting in's easy enough. I remember when I had one of these as a courtesy car many years ago. It was a P-Reg one. I think it was about 96. It was a 1.6 LS with no adjustable steering column, and it was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever driven, actually. This seems a bit better. It's still not the best though. Do these actually... Ooh, it's quite a nicely engineered cup holder for a car like this. That one's a bit springy. Oh, oh. I'll have to play with that a bit later. Sorry, Dan. We have aftermarket stereo. This is not the original. If I put the key in, someone just went past in a really loud Mini. If I put the key in, that's probably telling me the door's open, which it is. Yeah, this still sort of works. 17.5 degrees outside. It's quite warm today. That's the date, that's correct. I don't know if that's from the atomic clock in Germany that's 2 minutes out or not. We'll have to see. But we can see that this car's only done, just put my finger over again, so annoying that, you know, when you get this sort of lighting conditions, it's 75,586 miles. That's not bad. Again, instruments very like an Amiga or a Cavalier. It's not surprising really, is it? Let's see if the secret mission documents go in this glove box. That's no problem at all, is it? Little cup holders there as well. And no passenger airbag. There's just a big hole where it should be. That's a bit mean, isn't it? Air conditioning, I'm being told that doesn't work, so I won't operate that. The electric window switches are down here, again like an Amiga or something like that. They're actually down here rather than on a door, which is a bit mean, but you know, there we go. Nice conventional handbrake, no armrest or anything like that, 'cause it's only an LS. And quite a prominent shade band is actually appearing on that particular place in the reflection there. Do we get anything in there? Oh gosh, there's no mirror for the driver. There is one for the passenger though. And just the same old big indicator and wiper stalks that you've got on all Vauxhalls of this area from sort of course of B upwards. And yeah, the same thing for the fog lights. We don't have front fog lights in this car because it's only an LS. We do have a dimmable instruments and the classic old Vauxhall stroke Opal switch for the lights. I think that's about it. Oh, I've just realised we've got the same issues before. That I think is supposed to be like a mirror switch on higher spec models, but it doesn't do anything. The mirror control is that thing. I can just put my hand there so we don't get reflection. Right, let's go and have a look at the engine. Well, that's fancy, isn't it? We've got gas struts on this car. This is the very familiar General Motors Family 1 petrol engine. This is a 1.8 generating around 115 horsepower in this particular car. Very familiar all filler cap to a lot of people who know these Vauxhalls. And so is the coolant reservoir, and so is the dipstick. All very familiar to a lot of people who've driven Opals and Vauxhalls of this era. So, yeah, it's an engine that you do need to keep up with the maintenance. There's a cam belt in here, and if you don't change your cam belt on time, because that's actually the tensioner for the water pumpers. The water pumpers, the tensioner on these. You've got to make sure you do that on a regular basis, otherwise your head gasket can blow, which obviously isn't the best. I think these particular earlier 1.8 family ones don't have a plastic thermostat housing, which is better because the later ones do, and they can be a right nightmare. Right, I think it's time to go for a drive. Right, viewers, here we go. The Vectra B at the base of the range had a 1.6 engine, developing either 75 or 98 horsepower. Then there was this 1.8 Family 1 unit that developed earlier on 115 horsepower, and then later, I believe, about 125 horsepower. I've seen different outputs to that. The 2 litre was 134 brake horsepower. That was replaced later on by a 2.2 litre engine with 145 horsepower. That one was the car that Ian Seabrook used to have. I think his was a wide range, it'd be about 2001. Then on top of that, there was a 2.5 litre V6, which was the same one as used in the Vauxhall Omega. That developed 167 horsepower, and then for the last year of production or so, they brought out a 2.6 litre version of that engine, and that developed 170 horsepower. There were also some diesels, but due to controversial government legislation and other factors, we don't talk about those on this channel. So the normal trims available in a Vectra B were Envoy, LS, GLS, SRI, CDX, and then right at the top, normally with a V6, with a GSI. There are some special editions as well, and those were the kind of pre-facelift ones, so we'll go into some more of the special editions like the Vectra.com and things like that a bit later on. To drive this car feels, I don't know, it's just not particularly memorable. It doesn't stand out in any way. It's perfectly easy. The gearbox is actually better than I was expecting. I've driven some terrible Vauxhall gearboxes from the 90s in my time, and this one's okay. I don't think it's the best. A Mondeo Mark 1 and Mark 2 would definitely drive it better than this, or a Peugeot 406 or something like that. The ride's okay. It's not exceptional. Again, it's not bad. Yeah, it's just sort of average, I suppose. I hate to be sort of cliched and everything, and you know, this car's, it's all right. I don't mind it. It's much better than I thought it was going to be. It's not horrible. I just don't feel particularly inspired or blown away by any of it. There's a nice soft touch bit of this dashboard and everything in here, and it's quite comfortable, and Dan said it's been a reliable car since he's had it. But yeah, it's just not particularly stirring much in a way of emotion for me at all. It's not like a Rover 45 with the nice precise steering and the excellent handling. It's not like a Peugeot 406 with that really sublime chassis and you know, just that character. It's not a full Mondeo, which was a benchmark in the class for a while. It's not like that this Primera that I drove ages ago on Tweed Jacket Views. It's just kind of here, really. It's just sort of here, and I'm very grateful to Dan for allowing me to drive this, because I have wanted to drive one on the channel for quite some time, but I don't know if I'm disappointed with it or not. I think it's okay. I just don't think it's really anything special one way or the other particularly. Maybe if it was a V6 it might be, but I do understand why contemporary reviews of the car were either sort of mediocre or a bit scathing. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say, really. Let's park up and look at some Vectra trim levels in a bit more detail, shall we? So viewers, unfortunately it's a bit dark in here on the camera, but we're going to look at some Vauxhall Vectra B trim levels, and there were a lot of them. The standard range structure was Envoy, LS, GLS, CDX and SRI. The SRI was a sort of sporty one, and above that sometimes you could get a GSI, which was normally with a V6 engine. Special editions were the Arctic, Arctic 2, and Premier, Sport, Super Touring, SXI, and then Vectra.com, because you could order one of these online. Isn't that exciting? And then other trims were things like the Design Edition and Expression. This car had a lot of different platform mates on the General Motors underpinnings it sits on. The Vauxhall Calibra, the Saab 900, that was the second generation one, Vauxhall Cavalier Mark III, the Saab 9.3, first one, Saab 9.5, first one of those as well, the Saturn L series, and a weird car in China called the Senova D70 that was based on the Saab 9.5. It was also made in Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Egypt, Germany, Taiwan, Turkey, in addition to being made at Ellesmere Port and Luton in the United Kingdom. In fact, it was one of the last cars ever made at that plant. So yes, interesting car, I suppose. Well, let's just sum this all up then, shall we? Better light this time. Excellent. So viewers, should you buy a Vauxhall Vectra B? Well, it depends who you are. I mean, if you want some kind of street credibility, then perhaps no. If you're in Seabrook, maybe. If you just want a very cheap car to get you around, and it's, you know, it's in a kind of doldrums at the moment, and perhaps, you know, the servicing on this isn't particularly difficult, I don't think, unless you get a V6. And they are quite spacious. I just don't think this is particularly me somehow. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment below. Don't forget to turn the notification bell to be informed of more episodes of No Budget Reviews. And thank you to Dan again for the loan of this car. We'll be seeing another one of his cars on the channel soon as well. Thank you.